Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, people of all descriptions. We're back on the LJLOU, officially unofficial, broadcast for the LJL Spring 2021 split. You'll notice that actually one of our three faces has changed, and maybe they'll be even more of an expert on how sharp or blunt a various narwhal's horn can be. Counterfeit, how are you feeling about this new nature direction that we're coming into, and do you have a David Attenborough voice?
I don't know. It's all very confusing. I didn't realize this was what we were going to start with, and hopefully we'll move past this and onto more relevant matters very soon.
And so, as the great Sir David Attenborough has suggested to me, we will move on to slightly more relevant things. Lexi, we just saw Burning Core get taken apart. There is no other way to say it by Detonation Focus Me. Now, they might have been undefeated heading into that game, but they just came in very, very angry after losing their own game to Sengoku Gaming. Now, Burning Core are sat on a very lowly scoreline with only a single win. What must be going through the heads of these players right now, coming up against AXIZ, of course, who are a team sat on 3-3 and thinking, all right, this is a team which normally doesn't start very well. They started stronger this split, but Burning Core coming into this game, what are their thoughts?
I mean, this is a team that you really want to be looking at for the side of AXIZ going, okay, if I'm Burning Core, we've got to be thinking, okay, we're once Reifaki, Gadiadu, Yuki, Proud. Like, we are veterans in this region. We have far more experience than almost anyone on their team. Hoglet is the only veteran. 3 other rookies. Honey, obviously, coming off of their their debut year. They should be thinking, okay, we know the fundamentals. We just know things that these guys just haven't learned yet. We need to just rely on these, take it step by step. Firstly, get a good pick and ban phase, and then we can figure it out once we get on the Rift.
So figuring out things as you go on the Rift, maybe get themselves a bit of draft as well to go alongside that. Of course, heading back over to you then, Pete, with AXIZ are a team that started 0-6 in spring last year. They went 0-8 in summer, and their 2019 was nothing really to talk about either. This is by far the best start to a split they've ever had. And just a quick aside, I'm a Welsh rugby fan, actually not the underdogs, because the mentality seems to change a bit. Do you think that's going to have an impact on AXIZ coming in at 3-3 and look at Burning Core of like, wait, that's meant to be us?
I think it's going to be, it's an unusual situation for them to be in. And as well, with the rematch against Sengoku coming up in the next game after this, I have to
Hmm.
imagine that they're going to be putting a lot more resources towards preparing for Sengoku than they will be against Burning Core. But I don't know. I hope for Axis this is their chance to kind of come back in and show that they are better than their history. But you're right, against Burning Core here, I think they may have that problem. They may get perhaps a little too overconfident, drunk on victory, perhaps.
Drunk on victory. So you're predicting a Gragas. That's all things said and done. I guess that speaking of getting to those heady heights, maybe getting a bit ahead of themselves. Well, that's something which often happens to rookies. And Lexi, I know on the side of Axe is a couple of those faces which you'd probably want to hit on a little bit more. Of course, we've got Nemo in the support, Megamin in the mid lane, and of course we've got Inno in the top. These guys have had a real breakout start to the split. How are you feeling about them right now? How's that stock doing for you?
Oh, it's great. It's not sunk to the bottom of the sea like GameStop spot. It is just keeps going up, no stop. Megamin honestly has been paying back more than 500%, I think. A little bit less. It's about 300. Nemo. I correct me, Nightmare. I deserve it.
It is Nemo. Nemo. Sure. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo. Also 300% up. They're not having outstanding performances like Megumin, who is honestly having an all-star performance, an incredible rookie year so far for a Japanese player. Honey is also really coming into their own here, and I'm really happy with where AXIZ is looking. I'm not expecting them to go the distance. I think that's ridiculous for anyone to expect that. But this is a team where I think the expectation for this roster at the moment should be make playoffs and make a good statement at playoffs, similar to what we saw in spring from this the original roster of AXIZ in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, and they won't have to make that same princess run. So kind of moving away from, the fresher talent, and you might be a rookie onto our broadcast a little bit. Of course, you've been around for a little while. We know you've cut your stuff a little bit, and going back towards the cut your teeth. That's the thing. Like
There we go.
you're
Okay.
a veteran in your own
Cut your
right,
stuff,
and
okay.
go. Look, it's been a long day. We've got Once versus Hoglet in this jungle matchup. So these are two players which have been around for a while. They've been around in various regions, even if you look at Hoglet, who was back over in the LLA, I believe, on the likes of, on a couple of teams they've got over there. I think it's Rainbow Seven he was actually on. No, All Knights, I believe, was the team. This matchup in the jungle there, how does this unfold for you? Is this something where Burning Core might have an edge? Is it more towards Hoglet? What's it to you?
Well, we're talking about teams which have been moving around their rosters a fair amount, and for AXIZ and Burning Core, between Hoglet and Once, they carry the history of the teams between them, because Hoglet, as you mentioned, is the player who has stuck around and therefore has the direct experience of playing against Once. That experience hasn't necessarily been particularly positive, because the game last time they played against each other, Once destroyed the entire game on Echo.
Yeah.
And Hoglet got so shut out of the game, they had the least gold, barring supports, in the entire game as well. So a lot of bad memories for Hoglet there. And I think this is a really good chance for them to kind of break that pattern.
So, okay. So we've talked a little bit about legacies. We're not in the LEC. Oh no, maybe we are in the LEC. This shirt comes to fruition once more. But you know what? I'm just going to stop talking about that there. And then one last thing I will demand of both of you, though, is who's taking it? At the end of this day, nameplates on, getting onto the Rift. Who's taking this? Lexi, you first.
I can't turn my boys down. They're running hot so far. They're 3-3. I've got to go with the Narwhals. It's going to be AXIZ.
So sharper horns than we could have feared. Counterfeit. What's your prediction for this game?
I think it's very, very tough to bet on Burning Core at this point. I mean, just historically, it would make sense that Burning Core would win. But for AXIZ, I think they're on a really strong performance right now. I think the only sort of potential window here is, as I mentioned, is if AXIZ are more focused on Sengoku gaming than they are on directly fighting Burning Core. Maybe we see something get through in the draft that maybe shouldn't. But yeah, it's almost certainly got to be AXIZ.
Well, speaking of things that might get through draft, maybe getting caught up too much in future plans rather than what's in front of them, we're going to head over to that pick and ban phase. So without any further ado, take it away.
All right, guys. So AXIZ is going to be on the blue. Burning Core, as you can see, with a 1-6 record, looking for win number 2 here. Just, I don't think we're biased against them necessarily, but looking at those 6 losses so far, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge amount of work that needs to come out from Burning Core, but this pick and ban phase is definitely an opportunity for them. Obviously, we could definitely see a huge hard carry coming out of Once. That's where Burning Core found a lot of pressure and a lot of rewarding through their plays when they played around Once. So if they're going to find that opportunity, it's going to be through that jungle matchup that you identified. And the Ray Farkey ban of this Darius at the end, almost AXIZ just throwing some care to the wind or trying to give in on a slightly easier time. I guess we'll have to find out as this first pick is being hovered.
Yeah, so Burning Core as well, keeping their focus up towards that top lane. Ray Farkey, as it will be Seraphine locked in first of all. Interesting choice.
Is this going to be my boy Megumin playing the... Oh my god, I really hope it is actually. So this would actually be a very unique pick if this is, because I don't think AXIZ have even played a Seraphine rather. So there's a few options as we... Wow, Burning Core quickly fire it back with Senna Renekton. Interesting.
Yeah, we know that the Renekton's a contested pick between Inno and Ray Farkey. I mean, Inno's done amazing stuff, and Ray Farkey's only win so far has been on the Renekton itself, as the Senna joins as well for Yuhi, who's been mostly playing the Kaita.
Okay, well, the Olaf was completely left open by Burning Core, and Hoglet is going to be able to pick that up. Now, it's going to be important for them to probably match the top laner, but it seems like AXIZ are very, very interested in securing their bot lane and not having to worry about that. The Yuumi Seraphine would be very weird, but they are going to do exactly as I predicted, and it's actually going to be a Scion in this top lane.
Yeah, well, we've seen, I don't think we've seen the Sana from Inno before. They've been trying, they've been generally playing somewhat more aggressive picks, but maybe they think they just can't compete into Renekton as the Gragas is locked in for once. It's been an okay pick for once, but it's not, it's not the takeover of the game pick that, like the Echo we saw back in the lands of yore.
No, absolutely not. Graves being locked in and the Zed going away. That is a ban against Megumin, who had an outstanding performance both in LJL scouting grounds on that multiple times, 2 games, almost being unstoppable, as well as also playing it once here against a Yone. I'm trying to remember who actually played that Yone, but he dismantled them as well, and on his perennial run in this league, he is definitely showing up. He can play with the big boys. So, GARIADU, it's not going to happen. He's not going to get to play these 2 mid laners of the Syndra or the Orianna.
At least for AXIZ, they've been able to use the flexibility of the Seraphine to draw out those bans. Last 2 picks coming in. As the Azir comes out for GARIADU, we have seen them mostly on the Orianna so far. I don't believe we've seen the Azir so far this season, so that's a big change up from Burning Core.
Absolutely, huge switch up for the side of Burning Core. Though GARIADU has been known to play this kind of thing in the past. He was doing this a lot when he was actually a member of AXIZ. So this is actually a very interesting matchup because obviously this is GARIADU playing against his former team. So we have got that going for us as well. Honey getting to play his Aphelios, and in Spring Split, when he did have a few of his good games, it was on this Aphelios, so I'm excited to see what they can do here. We still don't quite know where the Seraphine is going, and this pick will decide it. I'm of the opinion this probably is going to be a support Seraphine, and we're going to get something mid here. No, I'm completely wrong. Megumin's going to be on the Seraphine, and Nemo has just picked up the Nautilus.
I mean, we've seen Nemo mostly on these tanky picks, so it does make sense. But, I mean, if it's going to be that pick predicted by Burning Core, they've still got their own support to pick up to back up Yuhi's Senna.
Yeah, and as we're just coming in, I've been reminded it was Dasher's Yone, one of the long-time players of the LJL. That's where Megumin was able to showcase his Zed, so I always like to bring that out. Zed was a last pick for Proud, and Proud was an absolute monster on this set throughout summer, really allowing Burning Core to have the ability to stay in a lot of games. He was their main initiator, and looking at these 2 drafts, I'll be honest, I actually really like where Burning Core are going with this direction. They've got Graves Renekton, that's something we know works. Hopefully GARIADU can just farm up on a safe pick of this Azir. And then this bot lane, well, Yuki's going to be able to poke out, and if they do engage onto Proud, they'll be able, well, if they do engage, Proud will be able to probably stop this. I'm actually really happy with how Burning Core and AXIZ, honestly, have both taken this draft.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. We did see the set pick from Proud before, and it did pretty okay versus V3, but something for me coming into this one, some big questions about the Burning Core bottom lane. How are you feeling like that kind of came together against Honey and Nemo?
So I think the idea for Burning Core here is that they're planning to just outrange, and they've been rather fortunate that that the Seraphine didn't end up going bot lane, because they could have been a heavy poke bot lane and then they could have had a problem with this set. The set was just matching what the Nautilus was doing, so I'm actually very happy with the fact that Burning Core are like, well, okay, we can just match them, we can take tank for tank, and Proud is probably a little bit more confident playing this matchup in a professional environment because he has played it a fair amount on this set. He was one of the most active set support players, so if I trust anyone to be able to pull this off, it would be Proud, but there's a few question marks when you look at it, and I will be honest, it is in the mid lane, and it is on Megumin on this Seraphine.
Yeah, I mean, for Megumin, they don't have a ton of competitive experience. As you mentioned, the Azir has been seen around the GARIADU before. I mean, if we kind of expand out that conversation a little bit to include Hoglet and Once as being these rivals with a long storied history, if we're considering sort of mid and jungle together, who are you favoring?
Honestly, I think it goes back to Burning Core in this kind of place. We haven't seen Megumin ever play this Seraphine. From what I remember through glazing over their solo queue status. They've not played a huge amount. It's been something they have been playing around with, but it's not something I'm overwhelmed to see. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. The thing is, Seraphine's not great at really setting up for Olaf, especially till 6. You need to get the charm off, then to try and get the slow down to maybe even root, and it's a lot to do. And Gadialu's on an Azir who's very happy to just jump away at the moment's notice of danger. So I think it's going to be really hard, whereas honestly I think the mid laner of Burning Core will have more opportunities to find a gank, find a kill, and this Seraphine is going to be incredibly squishy.
So let's talk Turkey.
All right.
This is one. I know, that's one of those things that just doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
But let's make sense of this game. We had our predictions coming into this one that, we were definitely going to be favoring, well, let's put it this way, not Burning Core. Now that we've seen the team overalls, it feels like you're switching things around a little bit, that your favor is starting to drift.
I mean, while I have my favorite teams as a person, I'm also an analyst, and I'm going to be very flippant with my predictions when I honestly believe I might have it wrong. Pick and ban, pre-pick and ban, definitely I'd still stay AXIZ. Post-pick and ban, well, that's where the nameplates mean a little bit less for me, and sadly, I will have to be switching over to Burning Core. You're absolutely right, Counterfeit. Do you want to switch?
I would never back down on my boy Hoglet. I think you're right. It feels like there's some big questions here. I mean, the top lane, we've got very much on an island up there for the most part. Hoglet, I think they've got a huge amount to prove against once, and the bottom lane, I think Yuhi as well, still remains a big question mark for me, that they haven't really been a major factor for the team. Whereas Honey, they've been huge for AXIZ. They've got the highest KDA, they've got the highest kill participation, they do the most damage on the team. So I'm really expecting Honey to go off in this game.
Yeah, and this is Honey having this kind of performance on a team that had rather low expectations. When we first were talking about this roster on our podcast, the LJLOU podcast, if you want to listen to that, check it out. When we talked about Honey, we were like, this is a player that could have a really huge upside in opportunity. He's coming off a team that had a pretty lackluster performance, especially in summer, being the bottom team in summer, and then coming into AXIZ, it's like, well, this is a brand new roster. You're going to have a bit more say because there's 3 rookies, there's Hoglet, and he's the only other veteran on the team, and we're using veteran in a very loose sense, as we see a Blitzcrank bot come out, and he's slightly favoring Burning Core after the pick and ban phase, so I'm actually pretty happy here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that the draft seems to have switched people's expectations a little bit more towards Burning Core. But let's talk overall game plans here, since we didn't get around to it before the game started. What's going to need to happen here for both AXIZ and for Burning Core to take this game home?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to want to see from the side of AXIZ is that Honey and Hoglet get really fed. They want to put all their gold specifically into Hoglet, and to a point Honey as well. Once they're able to get that gold going on these 2 members of the team, they'll be able to just carry through them. They need the early game to go onto Hoglet, they want the late game to go onto Honey, and then this Aphelios will be absolutely huge. Whereas on the side of Burning Core, they actually have a lot more flexibility. They're not playing a double support comp with a literal only tank champion in the top lane. They have a bit more they can do with it, as Rayfarki is just gonna put a ward here, just get vision, let once know what kind of pathing Hoglet is doing. Has just taken his blue buff, so he knows he's probably not done the golems down in the bot lane, and is probably just farming and looking to get an early gank in this top lane, which won't be possible. For the side of Burning Core, their win conditions is, well, late game Yuhi could just be their carry. They aren't going for a fasting center. They aren't going for a farming center, which is worth note, as fasting center is coming back, and in some people's eyes is actually the correct way to now play center. Obviously, you can just carry through a mid to late game form of Gadialu on this Azir, and then there obviously is still Graves and Rayfarki. This once Renekton combo can do a huge amount, but Rayfarki's already looking to put a huge amount of power and pressure onto Inon in this top lane.
Yeah, you can see Inno's taking a big trade there. We know that they are a big Renekton player themselves, so we should certainly be expecting them to know how those trade patterns go exactly. But still, suffering in the early going. We'll keep an eye out, of course, for where Once and Hoglet end up being, because right now they just seem to be focusing on farming, whereas we can see Megamin suffering in the mid lane against that Gary Aru's Azir.
Yeah, which makes total sense. The difference is Gadiaru went for a potion. The thing is, I actually really like how this wave has currently gone for Megamin. This is a wave he should have lost. This is pot versus non-pot, Doran's Ring really, specifically, and Gadiaru didn't push anywhere near as aggressively he should have. He could have easily pushed the first 3 waves, recalled and gotten back, done a quick cheater recall, or maybe only missed a little bit. He didn't do that and allowed Megamin to farm comfortably under turret, around the turret, in the lane, and then is well, what, 4 CS behind, 6 CS behind? It's currently wave different, so at the moment the CS is a little bit more ballooned, but that's a perfectly okay spot for a Seraphine to be.
So we're coming up on 5 minutes. We've yet to have a kill in the game, and as we saw from our friendly neighborhood bot, AXIZ predicted to take over the game around the 10 minutes to 20-minute mark. So, do we keep going in the same kind of trajectory for the next 5 minutes or so with just the farming for both junglers until we get to that point?
Well, I think it's going to be all around when these junglers actually start getting these ganks in, as Once is already looking for one.
Yeah, Honey going to get pulled back in. It's Proud leading the charge for Burning Core. See, once being held down as Nemo dived under the tower. Burning Core locked down first blood.
That was really well played. Coordination absolutely beautiful from the side of Burning Core there. Proud began it off by just going straight onto Nihon, and then from there they were able to completely collapse. Huge damage came out. I don't think the side of AXIZ really respected how much Burning Core could have put out there, and didn't respect the Graves damage there. That was just a very simple combo, nothing particularly special. Oh my god.
Empress Survival being given back into place. They've got the level disadvantage as Hoglet comes in, and it's looking like this rivalry of Hoglet and Once so far is pretty heavily in Once's favor.
So far, so good. Once is going to just clear this pink ward, and Megamin is still at a huge disadvantage. They still haven't ticked over to 6. Yes, they're able to get the 6 with this level, but let's come into this replay and actually understand. They have no idea, if you look at the vision, that Once is here. They're actually pushing out. The wave is pushing out. This is really well tied by the side of Burning Core, and they get so much early damage. The flash has already come out from Nihon, so they know that he's not going to be able to go away. Beautifully played by by Proud there. Without landing so much of that true damage at the end, it wouldn't have been possible to get that kill. Well played from Burning Core, textbookly done. And Megamin is just going to be in an awkward spot for the rest of this laning phase now, because that shuffle that happened, he lost his flash, and now he has to respect that Gadiaru at any moment could have a Once come out of a bush and just kill him. Obviously, at this moment in time, they do know that it's going to be an absolutely fine for them. They know the vision is, they've got this dragon warded already, so it's not going to be a problem. But Hail of Blades Azir is a very nice for quick trades. It's going to put out huge damage, and Megamin is playing a Seraphine. You don't have a lot of base stats on her.
And we can see, for Burning Core, they've taken advantage of what they've been doing in the mid and bottom lane to move in to take a completely warded dragon without any fear that AXIZ would take it away from them.
Yeah, and the first items are actually coming in as we see these players going back to the shop, and Megamin, I'm gonna have some words with you. We can't be doing this first item when you're building the Moonstone. You always build Crystal first, and then go into oh wait, the actual term has completely escaped me now. Production's probably laughing at me if I think about it. Completely lost the name of the item, but it doesn't matter. It's the crystal that makes things slower. Anyway, don't mind me. I've completely forgotten my items and had even more of a fumble as Hoglet comes in, gets seen on a ward, and it feels like that's how the epitome of my life is going so far. Just like, oh, I got seen. All right, I'm just gonna awkwardly walk away. You take it away, Counterfeit.
I always find that when I get awkwardly stuck on something, that extending the point further will always make it better. Oh boy, oh boy.
It does.
But yeah, okay. So let's check in on our items around the place. You can see that we've already got the Greaves locked down for Honey. I think there was a almost played down the bottom lane, but I think it was avoided. We're still at this point where for AXIZ, they're falling behind in both top and mid. Bottom has remained pretty close, with the exception, of course, of the first blood going to Yuhi. But we're actually seeing Burning Core, uncharacteristically for them, keeping a very strong focus on objectives, which is normally where we see AXIZ be very strong themselves.
Kindled gem. That's what I was thinking of. A kindled gem. I'm such an idiot. I can't believe it. You know, I know why you didn't know the item counterfeit, because it's not a TFT item. So I mean, hey, plug your streams. If anyone wants to watch any TFT streams, check out Counterfeit or check out his Twitter. He streams TFT. He's a great caster. Go over and watch him. Quick shout out while we're doing this. But well, once it's just going to secure this rift out, quick and casual, just like that.
Yes, I'm gonna lock it down as much as Hoglet is trying to lock down the 2 buffs at the same time for the early collateral damage. Fortunately, Hoglet is already beefy enough and will actually get the blue buff into Megumin's hands as well, which should hopefully help at least make sure this mid lane doesn't go out of control. But we have still got Once with the Herald in pocket, ready to start blowing this game further in favor of Burning Core. There's the play once again. Megumin doesn't look like he can do too much of anything. Hoglet again is late to the play and again can't do anything.
That was so signposted. It was almost like as if we all knew what was going to happen. He just didn't know. He didn't know, and it was all too late. Well played by LJLOU. That's not an easy combo to actually perform, but for a player of LJLOU's level, if he's not able to do a Shreema shuffle quite like that, or rather as a lot of the Azir mains like to call it, the Emperor's Divide, because that's the actual name of the ability, but Shreema shuffle, let's come into this replay, and look at this. This is just textbookly done by Azir. He's going to go EQ, dash through, Shreema shuffle in, and that's it. It's actually done. At this point, it's already over. Megumin doesn't have their flash. They can't go do anything about this, and there's not going to be any help from Hoglet. 2 kills now over to the side of Burning Core. 1 in this bot lane, 1 in this mid lane, and now 2 done by the jungler. Once is well and truly in control.
I feel really bad for Hoglet, who was praising coming into this one as this was their chance of redemption. They've really just not been able to make these plays again and again. Another gold lead is building up for Burning Core. You started favoring them from the champ select. Even though this is a team that is 1-6, things just keep looking better and better. Objective control so far. They're going to be able to slam a Herald into the place as well to build up that gold lead. As Hoglet is there for a play, but you see Megumin is losing out so badly on the 1v1 trades that the Olaf can't step any further forward.
And Megumin just can't do much about anything at this point. He's completely out of this lane. He's waiting for the laning phase to actually end now at this point. He wants to just get his Moonstone Renewer, figure out how the team fights are going to work, and rely on Honey, who even after having a death in his lane is still competing with Yuhi on the CS and is actually keeping slightly ahead in a lot of it. One thing of note, though, Burning Core is coming ahead, and oh god, why are you here? Why are you here, mate? You're gonna have to do something. Oh,
that something was the flash across the wall, and that's gonna be frustrating as well for AXIZ here to realize how much they've lost control of their bottom side jungle when Burning Core can just walk in as they please, catch someone roaming, and then chase them all the way through that jungle.
Yeah, and that was the worst time for it to happen because this dragon's coming up. You need the Nautilus to have a flash to come in, come out, do something crazy with the hook, and they won't have that opportunity to reposition. They have got the Hexa flash up, but Once is going very deep here.
Yeah, that means they're going to be able to pincer Hoglet here. They have got the rest of AXIZ coming for support. Crowd is going to be found out there. Gario very low already. The Azir is so mobile, but flash forward. The Ragnarok cancels out the Emperor's Divide. And this is the first kill for AXIZ right in front of the Drake. You see the Proud there is split off with Yuhi. It's a 2-2 split for Burning Core. If they want to commit in for this one, they're going to have to do it perfectly.
They're looking for it. They're trying to find the opportunity. Yuki is getting a stun there over onto the Scion, but this dragon is going to go down in favor of AXIZ, and they collapsed really well onto the side of Burning Core there. Burning Core had the idea. They had the opportunity. The problem was AXIZ were just quicker to get the first move going. They are going to place this Rift Herald down into the bot lane, and they're going to put a lot of gold onto Yuhi and Proud from the looks of things.
Yeah, I can see the turret getting half health there. Burning Core are going to get caught out here by the teleport coming in from the backside, though. Hoglet takes a lot of damage in the early going. Look at them getting chewed out by Once as Rayfarky dives the towers, trying to pour out enough damage, gets a nice double stun as Honey comes in from the back for the extra damage. Proud could get caught on the backside as Inno is doing work in the fight. Has to back off there, though. I don't think Honey can quite do enough as Inno falls down to minimal health. misses the knockup ultimately as, wow, it's a massacre. Honey stays alive, but Burning Core, they've still got 3 members with decent health down the bottom lane. They're back off for now, though.
A 2 for 2 at the end of all things said and done there, and while it looked like Burning Core were going to be able to pull ahead, AXIZ were able to collapse and at least effectively recover a 1 or 2 kills. However, remember, the Rift Herald was used, plates did go down, Burning Core did benefit throughout all of this because AXIZ didn't get much. Huge damage comes from Burning Core here, and look at this, just so much damage, and now Megumin comes in. The side of Burning Core are very divided, and AXIZ is actually properly grouping up and getting around. They're able to secure the kill over onto Yuhi here, and once does go down as well. And now it's just a lot of posturing around. They're going to try and see if they can kill this Scion, but Scion is just too damn tanky, and you can't do anything about the undead machine that is Scion. And at the end of all of this, Inon is 2-0. Your Scion has 2 kills. That's not where you want the gold to be. You need it to be on Honey, you need it to be on Hoglet, and that didn't happen.
No, you can see it as well. There was so much effort being put in to try and make that happen. Honey was so close to getting their kills. You know, it did so much damage. As you can see there, 480 gold favoring Burning Core. It's once avoids getting hit by the dredge line to escape out. Of course, that first Herald going into the hands of Burning Core. If we can lock down a second as well, maybe we see that first tower gold go across the core.
We'll have to see when this Rift Herald, well, the Rift Herald has spawned. It's going to be interesting to see if they were fighting about it, or if these two teams subscribe to the philosophy of, well, Herald's only worth X amount of gold, assuming you get the turret, or what it's worth, as well as the experience is normally less than 2 lanes. So are they going to throw a lot of members at it, or are they going to fight around it? It's going to be interesting to see, as it looks like at least AXIZ so far are trying to get that priority. Now Burning Core is going to contest them. Hoglet, you're a little bit alone with just a Nautilus, but Burning Core don't seem to be interested in punishing. AXIZ are almost all here and ready to go. Inon is in this mid lane as the Scion as well, so does have the ability with that ultimate to get there quick and fast.
Yeah, we'll have a straight line down to the Herald if it does go that far. It's looking like, yeah, Burning Core, they set themselves up for being played on, and there's the Scion, but it's going to be a wide. Burning Core expecting that play, and the Scion will go ripped apart before being able to do anything at all. Rayfaki coming in the back of the fight. This could be a big fight for Burning Core. Inno, of course, gets their second life, but still not enough damage as Nemo drops as well. Oh boy, that was not fantastic, but the Herald was secured for AXIZ.
The Herald was secured, and that definitely does help the side of AXIZ try and recover something a little bit later. They might be able to get lane control, they might be able to do something else on the map. However, this was just a very profitable exchange for Burning Core. They got the gold that you get from having a Herald, so that's already nullified. So the whole point of the Herald now is going to be trying to get some lane control and this. But this all started out because they ulted with this Scion. Inon missing multiple members here because they all just went to the same avenue and were like, well, we're going to group up and stay together because staying is fraying. But now Proud gets it bait because Rayfaki was coming around the back, and they get the kill. Very quick and easy from the side of Burning Core, and these items are coming in quick and fast. Mythics all around. Gore Drinker, of course, because it is 11.2, so still a very, very strong item. As we see multiple items also coming out. Kraken Slayer for this Senna, as well as Honey matching it. Moonstone Renewer as well for Seraphine.
And of course, you know, with those items being bought with the gold advantage that Burning Core have right now, only kills for AXIZ on the top laner and jungler. Nothing for Honey, who was, you know, presumably supposed to be the carry for this game. But they, you know, while they've got CS, they've got no kills at all, only 1 assist. Rift Herald is cashed in to at least get AXIZ on the board turret-wise.
Yeah, and that obviously Honey is AFK farming. They are trying to inject money into this Aphelios because the more money they can get him, the better a chance they'll have. Teleport is coming in, and they're going to collapse completely again. It's another pincer.
Already been chewed out, though, as Ray is on the back line. There's the assist coming in from Proud to get right onto Honey and delete everyone. The bottom lane is dead. Hoglet is dead. It's cost 2 towers. But again, Burning Core are staying ahead of these trades.
Yeah, and that top turret, it was going to go down anyway within the next few minutes, so I think it's perfectly fine to lose the outer. The inner turret is a little bit more frustrating, absolutely, for the side of Burning Core, but now they just have these really long lanes. So now what Burning Core can look to do is have a really long lane, push out, get this turret down in the in the top lane, and then let it just push back, and it will have to go so deep into Burning Core territory that any member of AXIZ that tries to push it or even get some of the farm and collect it isn't going to be able to do anything. And you know who has a problem with this? Sion, because yes, while he is the undead warrior, currently Sion is 2-6 record this season versus Senna. Just a really interesting fact. The range scaling maybe from Senna might just be doing absolute horror, or maybe it's just the stun for us to disallow Sion with his passive to do anything afterwards. Who really knows? Not me. I'm just letting you know of the cool stats.
I was wondering how you're going to try and turn that stat into an appropriate narrative, because I sure couldn't figure out how to do it. But I mean, just right now for you, they've been having the game that we wanted to see from having the game we wanted to see from Honey specifically. Yeah, they'd be able to keep the distance from getting murdered. They'd be able to dance between the raindrops, whether those raindrops be fairly heavy. And I think a lot of that's due to what Proud's been doing here. So they're actually forced to flash away. This is finally going to be a play they made for AXIZ here, but Yuhi's too tough to be able to bring down at this point, keeping their distance once again. AXIZ will be disappointed, though Inno's on the side, gets a knock up onto Proud, and they make the catch as well. Of course, it's very hard to put a set down in the best of times, but Nemo providing the front line, providing the time. Emperor's Divide will bring back another kill in here for Burning Core. And AXIZ can do nothing but watch. They've got Inu coming back up to provide a little bit more space, but it doesn't look like AXIZ wants to take any further fight.
No, they just can't do anything about it. They traded support for support, but then the top laner got caught in it, and Proud is more than happy to die for this. He can be a sacrificial lamb, and they're going to keep going, it looks like.
Yeah, right into the tower. Don't need the Rift Herald here, but the minions have evaporated. Gario goes relatively low. We still got to watch out for that honey damage.
Absolutely, but with the Senna heals, it does look like the side of Burning Core is more than happy to reset and figure out what the next opportunity around this map is. Mid turret just isn't quite on the table, but they will be the point of contention for Burning Core, as they have got that top turret, they have got this bot turret. I doubt they're going to be interested in pushing in anywhere else, so let's come into this replay and see what happens. Proud gets flashed on, but then he flashes in response. Ragnarok gets thrown, and Yuki's immediately claps one correctly by Hogler. Hogler is then able to run away because Ragnarok is a great ability and prevents you from being stunned, CC controlled, or any of the like. It can't even be knocked up, if I remember rightly. Proud does get caught out here by the Sion knockup, and they do use a lot, but because of that, the rest of AXIZ are able to, the rest of Burning Core rather, are able to completely collapse, and they use so much just to kill Proud. Nothing else was gained through that, and Burning Core just keep finding these small little avenues, and the gold lead is getting so large for Burning Core.
Yeah, I think, so for me, so much of the success of Burning Core so far is just coming from the positioning in these fights. They're finding places to fight where they can get around Inu's incredible engage. They can break off and find these little side lanes to put themselves where this straight front to back approach that we've seen AXIZ trying to pull out so far just gets confounded. They get lost in the jungle, and Burning Core are able to negate so many of the good tools that AXIZ have for starting a fight.
Yeah, absolutely they are, and part of that positioning that AXIZ, or rather Burning Core, are doing so well is part of the problem where AXIZ is falling apart a little bit. Nemon is falling into some rookie mistake spots as a Nautilus. He is getting called out. He is dying for the rest of his team, and obviously it's absolutely fine for you to do these things if you do sadly fall. But then you get 1 or 2 kills. You die for your team. There is a sacrificial lamb that is typical, very similar to how Proud played that previous fight where he was caught out, but then he was like, I'm going to go right into the middle. I'm going to try and make them use 1 or 2 more things on them. We haven't been seeing this from this Nautilus, but Nautilus is a very different champion to Set. Set has this hard, right into the middle, I want to be here. You do have to land a hook if you are on a Nautilus, and so far, we haven't been seeing those hooks come out. We haven't been seeing these huge Seraphine ults come out. A lot of pressure has been put onto Hogler, onto Honey, to really kind of rally the troops as it would be, and find the opportunities around the map. Mountain Dragon is coming up in a few minutes. Well, 40 seconds. 40 seconds. I was trying to say a minute, but I couldn't because it was less than a minute. So kind of wrote myself into an awkward spot there, Counterfeit.
Don't worry, I'll rescue you, Swan. Much as it looks like we're going to be seeing AXIZ trying to rescue their objectives by committing in for this Drake. But as you mentioned, Ray is there smashing down the tier 2 tower. So it's not even a trade, because presumably Ray, with a teleport still available, could just come back and try and pick up not just the tower, but another Drake as well.
Absolutely, and he has the point and click stun. If he's ever concerned that his team or the side that Inon is going to try and do some form of teleportation action themselves, he can just be like, no, slice, dice, you're not going anywhere, mate. I've got my flash. I can get you can close a very deep distance at this moment on this Renekton, but they both have teleport. Inon doesn't have a flash of themselves, and currently AXIZ are trying to position, and they did get the Scuttle Crab, so that is going to help them with the vision at least, but that doesn't mean they'll necessarily have control of this river. But Inon has come over here really early, and look at this. Rayfarki is still pushing. He is going to keep pushing, I expect. No, he's actually going to do a teleport in, and he's going to go deep.
Yeah, AXIZ, they've decided to start the Drake up with not knowing exactly where Ray is. They'll spot them in just a second coming in from the side. So Nemo is going to have to try and hold the line here. The AXIZ, they have to decide how much they want to commit in for this Drake. They will get hold of it, as they will turn back onto Ray, but Ray's just too beefy to fall down very, very quickly. Keep your eye on Honey at the back of the fight as they're pouring out the damage. They're going to get caught by the Showstopper. They are barely kept alive, and they get the shot down onto Once. Ray is down. Once is down as well for AXIZ. They get the objective, and they get the fight, even if they have to give up the kill on the tail end.
That's awful from the side of Burning Core. They just decided to let the dragon go down now without a fight, and then have a fight right after taking it down. Completely awful mismanagement from the side of there. Rayfarki going in, knowing the spot. He has to go in. It's getting low, guys. We know this dragon's getting low. Are we fighting? Are we not fighting? Clearly the call was not made in time, and sadly Rayfarki and Once did perish for those sins. As we come into this replay, look at how far Rayfarki is away from the rest of the team, and then when he does pop the Dominus, look, he's going in, the center ult gets thrown in, but where's the rest of the team? They're all so far away, and it takes them multiple seconds to get there. Huge ultimate coming out of Once there, trying to find the damage, but it completely whiffs a huge amount of them. Honey gets taken so low, but the charm from Megumin protects him.
It really reminds me.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll say this really puts me in mind of the previous fight before, where AXIZ again, they put all of their resources into killing one player, but this time round, Burning Core weren't able to take advantage of it fast enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really fair point. This is just the problem with what Burning Core... Well, there's a problem with what AXIZ. Look at the amount of damage that came out from Honey in that team fight. 4.4k damage coming out from this Aphelios. The whole team needs to just play Aphelios duty. Protect the Aphelios and you'll be perfectly fine. That is exactly what AXIZ did in this previous team fight. And Burning Core just looked a little disjointed. Huge damage did come out of them, but if it's all across a huge amount of members, it doesn't mean anything. And AXIZ are going to try and siege this mid turret.
They run out of minions pretty darn fast, but one thing that did jump out with me from that last fight was how low Honey went in the fight. That Showstopper almost took out the main damage dealer. And if for Burning Core, if they can, if they can access this one, eggs in one basket champion player for AXIZ and remove them before the fight even starts, then what have AXIZ even got left?
So I actually do think that Burning Core could have done that exact fight 10 times better if you just swap two of the players around in their positioning. If you swap Rayfarki and Proud around, they would have had an opportunity because of the stat ultimate with the Showstopper. Could have taken them in, but the Baron is getting incredibly low.
Yeah, we've got the catch onto Proud, but they are too beefy to go down quickly. The Baron is already very low as Hoglet front lines for the squad. Proud dancing around Rayfarki. They're going to abandon the fight here, but Ray gets caught. The follow-up CC isn't quite quick enough, though, from AXIZ to force a kill.
Burning Core, I'm really confused on what you're doing here. If you're willing to let a Baron go all the way down to 3k health, if you're not going to try and keep it around that happy 5k mark where you have the opportunity to just burst it, you let it go down to 3k. That is an opportunity where if Hoglet just pops Ragnarok and says, I don't care about the rest of your team because you're all disengaging and trying to back off, he could just steal it at that point. Burning Core are going to restart this Baron, but I'm a little concerned with their control. But Proud is playing Proud's duty of trying to do everything and anything for this team.
Baron down incredibly low. Here comes AXIZ. This time the Baron goes down too quickly as Ray leaves the front line. There we go. Honey gets brought back into the squad. It's so low and does get deleted. That means there's no damage left on the squad apart from the Seraphine. You know she's not going to be able to get the job done. Proud is very low, but Megamin echoes of the laning phase. They get chased down and deleted.
I swear, ladies and gentlemen out there watching this VOD, I've not seen this game before. I didn't mean to predict that Proud just needs to do Rayfaki's job for a split second and play the flank, but he did that gorgeously. Honey was thrown into the middle of the side of Burning Core, and that's the fight decided then and there. If you don't have the Aphelios putting out the huge damage over and over again, you're not going to be able to do anything differently. And as we come into this replay, just watch how much Proud carries this fight for the side of Burning Core. AXIZ are just a bit disjointed, they're not grouped up, and then when they do get grouped up, well, look at that, the Baron's already gone down. Proud has gone, I know exactly who I won. You're going to get stopwatch, you're going to get thrown back into the middle of the team, and I almost solo kill you, Honey. He almost does, actually. Wow, all that damage onto his health bar was just through him. Impressive performance here so far. And then after this, they're just playing cleanup from the side of Burning Core, and this is amazing to see. They were able to get that Baron far faster than the side of AXIZ were expecting, and then capitalize on it and got multiple kills. Well played, and they've already got 2 turrets so far from this Baron, and they're looking to be knocking down on another.
And of course, is able to provide a little bit of extra safety by deploying the sand turret as the inhibitor is open up. Is on the flank, but we know that Proud has been playing away from the rest of the Burning Core squad pretty effectively so far in this game, making sure there's no big clump to knock up all at the same time.
I love this from the side of Burning Core so far. They're just shadowing the rest of their team. Rayfaki is going to this bot lane. They're completely giving up this top side at the moment because, hey, it's fine. We can actually let it push in to us. We can get this dragon. We can get this bot turret. That's another turret for us. We can just keep side wave pressuring. And the thing is, Azir has put his turret in this mid lane. It means they're going to just continuously prevent the side of AXIZ from coming further outside of the outer turret section. But they basically have almost like a triangle from where the mid inhibitor is to this bot turret. That is the amount of space that AXIZ actually have outside of that top turret being there as well. They are incredibly cut off from so many points of resources in this map. That turret does sadly fall in the mid lane, and it will be a while till they get that off of cooldown, but it's going to cause them so many problems. They are looking for a fight.
Nicole going back in once again at take tower number 7. There is the catch there onto once, and they will be deleted. And it's looked like a second catch onto Ray as well. So objectives maybe not be going in the favor, but it's going to be a very good pickup there for Honey. That's a ton of gold back in for the only damage dealing member right now. I mean, Eglamin, is doing their best, but they don't have the itemization. It's all about Honey.
Oh, it really is all about Honey for the side of AXIZ, and they're putting every egg in that basket. Him getting another kill there is going to be great for AXIZ, but they're going to need so much more of that as they are 10k behind, and Honey, bless you, buddy, you're not equal on gold. I can just tell from your items at this center that Yuhi is going to outscale you, and potentially already is outscaling you. The heals, the shields, the amount of damage that the center will be able to do, especially with those souls. We haven't had a recent soul count, so I would love to know that eventually when we do hover over Yuhi. And the thing is that went so badly in that last fight is that Burning Core went at a 3v4, arguably even to a point more 3v5. And they still were able to capitalize and get a kill. They weren't losing everything for their sins there. They got the turret, they got a kill. Arguably, you could argue because of what they got overall, it's actually still favor Burning Core. But the shutdown going over to Honey does make that a little bit more of an asterisk, maybe more equal, maybe slightly AXIZ favored.
I mean, certainly the game itself is pretty Burning Core favored. I mean, 20 minutes was about 5 or 6k. Now it's up to 10k advantage. So Burning Core, they're still building up. They're still expanding on the lead. They're not sitting on their laurels. Now one Mountain Drake away from Mountain Soul. It looks to be that they're going to build up the vision around this next Baron as well, coming up in 1 minute 20.
Yeah, Dragon Soul currently is also going to be on the table for Burning Core, though that will be a minute or two after this Baron gets up. So Burning Core do have this perfectly planned out for them, as it allows them to either look to go very aggressive on this Baron and kind of dance around it, and then even give AXIZ the opportunity of a trade, though I don't see how Burning Core are going to really give them the opportunity. They are so far ahead at the moment in this game. They have the complete control of the map. They can set waves up beautifully. This dragon isn't coming up for 2 minutes, so they've got plenty of time to get the game state to a place where they are perfectly happy. They can even have all these minion waves knocking onto AXIZ's door and then play around the map. Teleportation is up for GADIADU and Rayfaki. Mega Min and Inon do have that match, but they don't have the vision around the map to match them.
No, we can see that the vision is being focused on still more by Burning Core. Definitely have very heavy focus. So they've missed a ward right at the front of the Baron pit, but no longer. It's going to be spotted out by that scrying bloom there. So that means Proud should be able to, or at least the rest of the squad will be aware that there is still vision for AXIZ. There's no blackout around the pit to make an easy Baron.
Absolutely not, but so far Blitzcrank Bot is very much on the side that Burning Core are going to have to do something spectacularly to give this game over to the side of AXIZ, and I would agree with Blitzcrank right there. It's going to take a miracle for anything to happen, but they have got the man of 200 years on their side, so if anybody will have the opportunity, well, an Aphelios is always a good place to start. There's also against a Renekton who will be starting to fall off in this game. So hey, there are avenues in this game. Let's just see if Burning Core can close out this game, or if AXIZ can try and find the retake as we prepare for this Baron.
Just check back in on that gold difference graph. It was all around 28 minutes, that last Baron and dance, where it all went to hell, particularly in favor of Burning Core. We've got another ARAM building up here because there's an open inhibitor for AXIZ awaiting at the end of that lane. It doesn't seem like, AXIZ themselves seem to be functionally working as a turret here to stop Burning Core from moving any further, as the Mountain Soul is now in contention, spawning in. It seems like Baron will not be the fight. Instead, it's for the Soul.
It really does look like it's going to be, and Yuki is just poking out, doing so much damage. The reason that they gave up on that Baron is because they wanted this Dragon Soul so much, and uncontested, it's free for them. And now that they have that, they're going to look to engage onto them.
And Rayfaki bringing at the front, Proud coming in from the flank once again. Keep your eye on Honey as they get prawn back in to the team. They're going to be using the Emperor's Divide to bring them to heal. And with that, all of the damage goes from the AXIZ team. They have been slaughtered. Triple kill for Faki there. As you can see, just trying to stumble blinded away from the fight. And this is what AXIZ were trying to avoid. They've got an open inhibitor. They've got a run down. The minions are coming. I think this could be it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the game. This is really well played by Burning Core, especially that last final team fight around this Dragon Soul. AXIZ let them get it. Very similar to how we saw the previous game, or a few of these other dragons go. They gave it over to AXIZ, and AXIZ, sadly, are going to be falling to a negative record with this. Burning Core maybe looking a bit better.
Wow, the second win of the season. Impressive stuff from Burning Core. They didn't look like a 1-6 team there. That's a dominating victory.
Absolutely. They really didn't seem like a team that could have overcome the odds, but they had the ban, they had the picks, they found the opportunities throughout this game, Counterfeit. And as you're part of the LJLOU for the time being, I'm going to take you over on a quick break before we come back and go through everything with our analyst desk. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere.
We're back. We're done. We finished our third game of the day, which of course was AXIZ versus Burning Core. Burning Core coming into this kind of coming in as the underdogs, 1-6. Well, it's not even kind of. They had a struggle earlier in the day, but they have come out to a win. And much the opposite of their earlier loss in the day to DFM, seemed like that early game went pretty well, particularly around that mid-jungle 2v2. Gadiadu really got the upper hand over Megam and Seraphine. Lexi, what did you make of that mid-jungle synergy between the Burning Core members?
I mean, this was something we expected to see from week one, really, from the side of Burning Core. The fact that it's taken them 4 weeks to actually get online and get there it's rather worrying. They have shown moments of greatness, but definitely it does seem that Gadiadu coming into this team, a more experienced player, might be shaking things up. The last, obviously, previous member of Burning Core, they had a rookie standing in for half a split, and even then there was still the synergy. It took them a while to work out. Ever since Rocky left, that void has definitely been felt for Burning Core. But now that everything's coming together, maybe Gadiaru and Once, they just needed a bit of time to really start bonding on the stage. It finally started looking out. Megamin was getting punished in very hedge circumstances, maybe not completely aware of the full limit that Gadiaru's Azir is a comfort pick for him, and maybe not completely aware of the hitbox of Seraphine. That first Shurima shuffle was, you could almost see it happen before it happened, but then it was like, I don't know how much more he can really do about this. He hasn't got flash, maybe he just literally stands on the turret. But honestly, it's really nice to see this mid-jungle 2v2 working.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cookie cutter play. You force the flash one shuffle, you go back and make sure it's a done deal on the second one. But a good early game does not a one game make. You have to do stuff in the team fights, and that's where things got a little bit dicey for Burning Core, because of course we had some early fracas, including an early bot lane play where all manner of crazy stuff happened. Shift forward in the game a little bit more, and suddenly Honey is doing work on this Aphelios. Hoglet kind of struggled a bit for the side of AXIZ. So for the two veterans, really, of this AXIZ roster, Pete, going to head over to you. What did you make of their roles within particularly these mid-game fights, and particularly that fourth dragon fight too, which they ended up having a better ordeal of?
Well, just to tie in for some of the stuff from the early in the game, I think for the team, they ultimately ended up with it being so very Honey focused because Hoglet was, being late to the play in the mid lane, repeatedly. So wasn't getting the kills and wasn't being able to become a major factor. So I think so much of the team was built around, or so much of the play was around trying to keep Honey alive. But I don't necessarily think they had the best tools for doing it. They didn't have the shields coming in. They weren't, physically removing Honey from danger. And I think, there was that, the one good fight where everything kind of worked out, where the flank wasn't quite where it needed to be. But I think for Burning Core, they had every tool they needed to be able to deal with that particular strategy. The one threat comp, when you have the set in the mix throwing out the showstoppers, when you've got the really good flanks going on, I just don't think that's ever going to work.
It briefly worked, but you kind of have to make sure that it works every fight for Honey. And that obviously didn't happen. We're going to go now over to the 28-minute Baron fight where, in that previous fight, we saw Proud get an ult onto Honey. Wow, that's great. Actually, he survives, managed to turn it around. Not so much at this Baron dance. First, it was a start onto the Baron, a peel off, going back to it. And in that second start of the Baron, things went from bad to worse for AXIZ. And honestly, this was probably the game-breaking play, wasn't it, Lexi?
Oh, it really was. Hilariously, I think that was actually an opportunity for AXIZ winning the game right at that point. If they had just gone completely in, they had just thrown all care to the wind. You're over 5k behind. If you're gonna lose, if you could win or lose the game either point at this point, they blind ran into that first Baron. There might have been an opportunity for them to have actually found the win. They didn't. They played a bit safer, probably correct in the grand scale of things. Problem is, Baron went down before they even got into the pit. Hoglet was nowhere near a chance of smiting. He was far too far out of range. And by that point, Proud had already been ghosting everybody, running up and down all around, going very fast with his dead man's plate, found himself Honey, and was like, target locked, neutral, objective required, and then just went fully in, ulted him into the middle of the team, and did almost all of Honey's health bar by himself. The fact that he didn't get the kill is a little sad for Proud, but it's great to see him on this set again. And from that, the rest of the team collapsed upon and played a really good team fight.
And I think it's really juxtaposed because Inno, Nemo, and Hoglet all struggled so much the later the game went on to
Yeah.
do anything to this center. Yuhi was just sat there in the backline, feeling very, very safe. In fact, there is that stat which ended up getting brought up. I think center is something like 6-2 versus center from both support and AD carry roles. So Sion just really struggles to get in that backline, and of course, Nemo ended up with a pretty abysmal KDA on the other side of things. What that meant is that as soon as Mountain Soul came in and the gold lead started racking up too, it really was teamfights just capitulating for AXIZ when the counterfeit.
I mean, yeah, it's just saying in the game itself, it was going to take an absolute miracle. Unfortunately, it felt like, with the exception of that one fight, uh, for Burning Core, they were they were narrowing in on we just need to play the same fight over and over again, and then
Control V, Control V.
yeah, it's like it works. So all you need to do is like narrow and make sure you don't accidentally come a little bit out of time with each other. But I fully expect to see them, if that works so well, to try and take that same team fight and apply it to as many games as possible going forwards.
So, they will, of course, attempt to do that in the next week of play. Of course, it's going to be a little bit of break until Super Week rolls around. AXIZ, however, have a single game left to play for this week, and it will be against the earlier victorious Sengoku Gaming, who did take that game off over Detonation Focus Me. So really putting their name in that conversation about the up-and-comers in this spring split. We'll be covering that right after this break. Go nowhere.